My dear friends, have you ever noticed when a glass of water is shaken, it becomes muddy? But if you leave it still silently, all the dirt settles down and the water becomes clear again. In the same way, when our mind is restless, we speak too much, we argue too much, we complain too much. And what happens? Confusion, misunderstanding, and pain. But when we choose silence, clarity comes, strength comes. And surprisingly, everything we were chasing slowly starts coming to us. Today, I want to share with you a simple truth. Stay silent, and you will get everything in life. Not silence of weakness, but silence of wisdom. Friends, many people think that if you stay silent, you are weak. They say, "Why didn't you reply? Why didn't you argue back? Why didn't you shout louder?" And in society, somehow, we've started believing that the louder one is, the stronger one is. But let me ask you a question. When a dog barks at an elephant, does the elephant stop and bark back? No. The elephant keeps walking. Because the elephant knows its size, its strength, its dignity. It doesn't need to waste energy on every barking sound around it. In the same way, when you know your worth, when you are confident, when you are strong from within, you don't have to react to every word. Silence becomes your true roar. A pause, look around the audience. Think about it. A river makes a lot of noise when it's shallow. But when it's deep, it flows silently. People who are shallow talk too much. People who are deep, they are calm. Their silence speaks louder than their words. I remember once, I was traveling on a flight. The person sitting next to me was very frustrated. The air hostess served him the wrong meal, and he started shouting. He made a scene. He thought by raising his voice, he's showing strength. But the other passengers, they were just quietly watching him. In the end, people respected not the one who shouted, but the one who stayed calm. Friends, silence is not weakness. It's maturity. It's control. It's the power to say, "I choose not to waste my energy on things that don't matter." Look at Mahatma Gandhi. He led an entire freedom movement with the strength of silence. He didn't shout. He didn't fight with weapons. His silence, his peaceful presence, his stillness shook the most powerful empire in the world. That's not weakness, that's strength beyond imagination. I'll pause, softer toned. So next time when someone provokes you, remember the elephant, remember the deep river, remember Gandhi. Choose silence. Because silence is not the absence of power, it is the presence of wisdom. My friends, words are like arrows. Once they leave the bow, you can never bring them back. Many times in life, we speak in anger, in frustration, in ego, and later we regret it. Haven't you experienced it? In the heat of the moment, we say something harsh to a loved one, and later we sit quietly thinking, "Why did I say that? I didn't mean it." But by then, the damage is already done. The relationship gets a scar. The trust gets a crack. And even if the person forgives us, somewhere deep inside, they don't forget. This is why silence in those moments of anger is not just wisdom, it is protection. Protection from regret, protection from guilt, protection from losing the people we love most. I remember once, a couple came to me with their marriage on the edge of breaking. The husband told me, "Swamiji, I only said those words once, just once, when I was angry. Why can't she forget it?" And the wife said, "It was only once, but those words pierced my heart like a sword." Friends, swords leave scars, even if used only once. Words can do the same. When you hold back in silence during anger, you are not weak. You are saving yourself from a lifetime of apologizing. You are saving another person from a lifetime of pain. Think of fire. If you drop a spark in dry grass, it spreads and destroys everything in minutes. That's exactly what happens when angry words are spoken. But if you hold back, if you keep silent, the spark dies before it destroys. That's the power of silence. Many people regret not what they did, but what they said. Silence saves you from that regret. It gives you time to cool down, to think, to choose the right words, and to speak at the right time. And it's not just in relationships. Even in the workplace, silence protects us. Imagine you're in a heated meeting. Everyone is trying to prove they are right, voices are raised, arguments flying around. If you join in with the same fire, you add fuel. But if you stay silent, you stand out. People notice. They respect the one who doesn't get carried away. Later, when you finally speak, your words are heard. But if you had spoken in that heated moment, you would have been just another noise in the room. Silence gave you the power to avoid regret and the respect of others. There's a story from the Mahabharata. When Draupadi was insulted in the Kaurava court, Bhishma, the grandsire, sat silent. And that silence became his greatest regret. Silence, my friends, doesn't always mean not speaking at all. It means knowing when not to speak and when to speak. Because silence in anger is wisdom, but silence in injustice is cowardice. The art of life is to know the difference. To hold back when your ego is boiling, but to stand up when your values are being crushed. So the next time anger rises within you, ask yourself, do I want to win the argument and lose the person? Or do I want to stay silent, let the storm pass, and save the relationship? Because once words are spoken, you can never take them back. Silence may feel difficult in the moment, but later you will thank yourself. And those around you will thank you too. My friends, silence protects you from the pain of regret and gives you the peace of knowing, I didn't let my tongue destroy what my heart wanted to keep. My dear friends, if I ask you, who do you respect more? Someone who is always talking, always interrupting, always trying to prove themselves right, or someone who speaks less, listens more, and when they finally open their mouth, every word feels like wisdom. Naturally, we respect the second one. Why? Because silence builds respect. People may be impressed by loudness for a moment, but they respect depth forever. Think about the great leaders of history. Did they shout the loudest? No. Their power came from measured words, spoken at the right time. Take, for example, the Buddha. He spoke very little. But when he did speak, people traveled for miles just to listen. Why? Because his silence in daily life gave weight to his words when he finally chose to speak. People knew if he is speaking, it must be important. Silence becomes like a savings account. The less you spend it, the more valuable it becomes. I once met a young man who told me, Swamiji, in my office meetings, I speak the most, but nobody seems to respect me. They don't take my words seriously. And I asked him, when you keep talking non-stop, why should they? Words are like currency. If you flood the market with too much currency, it loses value. But if it's limited and rare, people treasure it. Your silence is what gives your words their value. He was shocked, but slowly he realized that the key to respect is not in speaking more, but in speaking less and listening more. There is also a saying, the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest one in the room. Insecurity makes us talk too much. Security, confidence, inner strength makes us calm. When you are silent, people begin to wonder what is going on in his mind. What is she thinking? That curiosity builds respect. But if you're always talking, always available, always reacting, people take you lightly. Friends in relationships also, silence creates dignity. Imagine a husband and wife in an argument. One keeps talking, shouting, proving their point. The other stays calm and silent. Who do you think is respected more by the children watching? It is not the one shouting, it is the one who held their dignity. Silence in arguments doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you value peace more than proving your ego right, and people respect that maturity. I remember once in my school days, there was a teacher. He hardly spoke much in class. But whenever he did, we all listened with wide eyes. He didn't have to raise his voice. He didn't have to shout for attention. His very presence commanded respect because he didn't waste his words on nonsense. Silence made his voice powerful. Even today, I remember his words, not because they were many, but because they were rare. Even in spiritual life, silence attracts respect. Monks, saints, wise men, they are often people of few words. People go to them not because they are chatterboxes, but because their silence radiates depth. We bow down to them because they don't try to impress us with arguments, they impress us with their calmness. True respect is not demanded, it is commanded silently. So, my friends, remember this. If you want respect, don't run behind people trying to convince them with endless words. Become silent, become deep, become thoughtful. When you do speak, speak with clarity, speak with compassion, speak with purpose. People will not just hear your words, they will feel them. And that feeling is what builds lifelong respect. My dear friends, silence is not just about closing the mouth. It is about opening the ears. Because the moment we stop talking, we start listening. And the moment we start listening, we begin to grow. Many of us think that wisdom comes from speaking well, but the truth is, wisdom comes from listening deeply. You don't learn when you are talking. You only repeat what you already know. You learn when you are silent, when you are listening, when you are open. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed how a child learns? In the first few years of life, a child hardly speaks. They just observe, they listen, they absorb, and in that silence, they learn an entire language, they learn behaviors, they learn the world. If a child kept talking from the beginning, how would they ever learn? Silence makes us students of life. But sadly, as we grow older, we lose that art. We want to keep proving ourselves right, keep showing off our knowledge, keep talking, and in the process, we forget to listen. And when we stop listening, we stop growing. I remember once I was invited to speak at a conference. Many experts from different fields were there. Doctors, engineers, teachers, businessmen. Everyone wanted to share their knowledge. But I noticed one gentleman, he hardly spoke. He just sat silently, listening carefully to everyone. Later, I asked him, "Why didn't you speak much? You are such a senior person, people would have listened." And he smiled and said, "I already know what I know. If I talk, I repeat my own knowledge. If I listen, I learn something new. That's why I prefer silence." Friends, that one sentence stayed with me forever. Silence gives us the ability to listen, and listening gives us the ability to learn. In relationships too, listening is more powerful than speaking. How many times has your friend or spouse told you, "You don't understand me, you don't listen to me"? Most of the fights are not because we don't love, but because we don't listen. We keep interrupting, giving advice, arguing, instead of just being silent and hearing them out. Sometimes people don't need answers, they just need ears. And silence gives you that strength to listen without jumping in, without cutting them off, without making it about yourself. That simple act of listening silently can heal wounds, that words cannot. There is a story of a monk who trained his students in meditation. One day, a student asked him, "Master, how can I hear God's voice?" The monk said, "First learn to hear the voice of the people around you. Learn to hear the voice of your own heart. Learn to hear the sound of nature. And when you perfect listening in silence, you will hear God without words." My friends, that is the depth of silence. It transforms your ears into antennas for wisdom, compassion, and truth. Even in practical life, business, leadership, teamwork, listening is the greatest skill. A leader who keeps talking may inspire for a while, but a leader who listens wins trust forever. Because when you listen, people feel valued. And when people feel valued, they open up, they respect you, they follow you. Silence creates space for others to speak, and in that space, connections are built. Speaking makes you important for a moment, but listening makes you unforgettable for a lifetime. So, the next time you sit in a conversation, ask yourself, am I listening to reply or am I listening to understand? The first comes from ego, the second comes from silence. And trust me, the one who truly listens will always know more, grow more, and love more. Because silence increases your listening power. And listening power is the foundation of wisdom. My dear friends, have you ever seen a glass of water right after it has been shaken? It turns cloudy, full of bubbles, full of disturbance. But if you put that glass down and leave it alone for a while, what happens? Slowly, the bubbles rise and vanish, the dirt settles at the bottom, and the water becomes clear again. The same thing happens with our mind. When we are restless, when we are overthinking, when we are constantly talking and talking, our inner water is shaken, disturbed, muddy. But when we sit silently, when we pause, when we stop adding noise, clarity returns. Silence is the settling down of the mind. Most of the confusion in our lives does not come from lack of solutions, but from lack of silence. We make decisions when the water is muddy and later regret them. We react in anger, in haste, in impulse, and later we say, "I wish I had thought before I spoke. I wish I had waited before I decided." That is the power of silence. It gives you the space between stimulus and response. It gives you the breathing room to reflect, to process, to see things clearly before acting. I remember a young man who once came to me very stressed. He said, "Swamiji, I have to make a career decision. I am so confused. My family says one thing, my friends say another, my heart says something else. I don't know what to do." I told him, "Take one day. No phone, no television, no endless discussions. Just silence. Sit quietly with yourself. Go for a walk in nature. Listen to the stillness. The answer will come from within." He was shocked. He expected me to give him advice, a direct answer. But instead, I gave him silence. And you know what happened? The next day, he returned and said, "Swamiji, I found my answer." Did I give it to him? No. Silence did. Silence cleared the muddy water of his mind and allowed his own inner wisdom to shine. Friends, today our biggest problem is not lack of information. It is too much information. News, social media, gossip, opinions, everybody is talking. Our minds are bombarded with noise. And in that noise, clarity is lost. The more noise outside, the more noise inside. But when you switch off the noise, when you embrace silence, the fog begins to lift. That is when you realize what really matters, what you really want, what is truly important. Silence is not just an empty pause. It is a medicine for the cluttered mind. In relationships too, silence gives clarity. When you are angry, you can't see clearly. Your words are harsh, your thoughts are clouded, your emotions are on fire. If you react in that moment, you damage the relationship. But if you stay silent, let time pass, let the emotions settle, suddenly you see things in a different light. You realize maybe it wasn't such a big deal. Maybe the other person didn't mean harm. Maybe you two were at fault. Silence gives you that clarity which anger never allows. Even spiritually, silence is the key to inner clarity. The sages and saints went into the forests and mountains, not because the world was bad, but because they needed silence. In silence, they heard the whispers of the soul. In silence, they saw truths that constant talking had hidden. God does not shout, the divine speaks in silence. And unless we learn to be quiet, we cannot hear it. That is why meditation, prayer, reflection, all are based on silence. Because silence clears the fog of the mind and reveals the light of the soul. I once read a beautiful line, when the mind is silent, the heart speaks. Isn't that true? Many of us can't hear our own heart because the mind is too noisy. We keep thinking, analyzing, worrying, debating, but in silence, the heart finally has a voice, and that voice brings clarity. It tells you what you truly want, what you truly need, what direction you must take. So, my friends, remember this: when life feels confusing, when your mind feels muddy, don't rush into decisions, don't rush into reactions. Pause, be silent, let the dirt settle, let the noise fade. And then, from that silence, clarity will rise like the morning sun. Because silence is not emptiness, it is the mother of clarity, the birthplace of wisdom. My dear friends, have you ever noticed something very interesting in life? The more easily something is available, the less value people give to it. If you eat sweets every day, the taste becomes ordinary. But if you eat them once in a while, you treasure every bite. In the same way, when we keep talking all the time, our words lose value. But when we choose silence and speak only when necessary, every word becomes powerful. Every sentence becomes priceless. Think of the people you truly admire. Are they the ones who keep on chattering endlessly, giving their opinion on everything? Or are they the ones who are calm, who listen more, and who, when they finally speak, everyone leans forward to hear them? You see, silence is what gives weight to our words. If we keep talking non-stop, people stop paying attention. But if we remain silent and speak rarely, people start to listen more carefully. Why? Because they know this person doesn't speak often. If he is speaking now, it must be important. There's a famous saying, empty vessels make more noise. A shallow pot makes a loud clanging sound when struck, but a deep pot makes very little sound. Similarly, shallow minds speak too much and wise minds speak less. Their silence becomes their power. Their words, though few, carry depth. They can move hearts, inspire minds, and even change lives. This is the power of silence. It makes your words more powerful. I remember once I was sitting with an elderly monk. We were surrounded by young students who kept asking him question after question. He smiled, listened to each one patiently, but hardly replied immediately. Sometimes he would just close his eyes and remain silent. The students grew restless. Why is he not answering? Doesn't he know? And then, when he finally spoke, he gave just one or two sentences, and that was enough to silence the entire room. His words had such gravity, such weight, that they answered not only the question asked, but also the doubts that were never spoken. Friends, that day I learned silence does not weaken your words, it strengthens them. It fills them with power. Think about music. The pauses between the notes are as important as the notes themselves. Without silence, music would just be noise. Similarly, in conversations, the pauses, those moments of silence, make our words melodious, meaningful, and memorable. If you keep speaking without pause, people's ears get tired, their minds wander. But if you pause, stay silent, let your words breathe, the listener connects deeply. Silence is not the absence of communication, it is the amplifier of communication. Even in relationships, the value of words comes from silence. If you keep telling your loved one, I love you 10 times a day, it may sound ordinary. But if you say it at the right time, with the right feeling, in the middle of silence, it becomes magical. The silence before the words gives them their power. Sometimes, one sentence spoken after long silence can heal years of pain. That is why silence is not empty. It is full of potential, full of energy, full of power waiting to be released through the right words. In leadership too, silence makes words powerful. A boss who keeps lecturing every day loses authority. But a leader who listens, who observes, and who speaks only when it is truly needed. Such a leader's words can move an entire team. His speech is remembered because it is not frequent, it is not forced, it is not empty, it is backed by silence, thought, and wisdom. Friends, silence is like the bow that pulls the arrow back. The deeper the silence, the stronger the arrow of your words will fly. If you want your speech to touch hearts, first practice silence. If you want your message to create impact, first practice silence. If you want your words to be remembered, first practice silence. Because silence makes your words rare, and rarity is what creates value. So, the next time you are tempted to keep talking, remember your words are like pearls. Don't throw them everywhere. Let silence polish them. Let silence prepare them. Let silence add weight to them. And when you finally speak, your words will not just be heard, they will be felt. They will not just make noise, they will make impact. Because silence, my friends, makes your words more powerful than you can ever imagine. My dear friends, relationships are like delicate threads. They can hold the weight of storms if treated with care, but they can snap in a second if pulled with anger. And what pulls these threads most? Harsh words, misunderstandings, ego battles. Do you know what saves them? Silence. Silence is not just empty space, it is medicine. Silence heals where arguments wound. Silence protects where words destroy. Silence, my friends, has the power to save relationships that shouting could never save. Think about it. How many times have we said something in anger to the people we love most and then regretted it later? We don't shout at strangers on the street as much as we shout at our own family. Why? Because we know they'll stay. But the truth is, every word we throw in anger leaves a mark, a scar, a bruise. And sometimes those scars never fade. But if in that heated moment we choose silence, just silence, the fire dies down. The storm passes, and the relationship remains safe. One moment of silence can prevent years of regret. I remember once a couple came to me for guidance. They were fighting almost every day. The husband said, Swamiji, she never stops arguing. The wife said, he never listens. I asked them, have you tried silence? They laughed. But then I explained, silence doesn't mean ignoring each other. It means stepping back when emotions are high. It means pausing instead of reacting. It means giving space for feelings to settle before words are spoken. Slowly, they began practicing it. Whenever the arguments heated up, one of them would stay silent, step away, breathe, and then come back with calmness. You know what happened? Within months, the frequency of fights reduced. Their bond grew stronger. Silence didn't break their connection. Silence saved it. In friendships too, silence can heal. Sometimes a friend says something hurtful. Sometimes misunderstandings arise. If we react immediately, we may lose a lifelong bond over one small moment. But if we stay silent, give it time, and let the dust settle, we often realize it wasn't even worth fighting about. How many friendships have ended because neither person chose silence? Both wanted the last word, both wanted to be right. But the truth is, in relationships, being right is not as important as being kind. And kindness often shows itself through silence. Silence also allows listening. When two people are angry, both talk but no one hears. Both are busy preparing their next line, their next attack. But if one becomes silent, suddenly space is created. The other person feels heard. And when people feel heard, their anger melts. Healing begins. Silence is not just the absence of speech, it is the presence of understanding. Let me share a story. There was once a wise monk living near a village. Two brothers came to him, both angry at each other, refusing to speak. They asked, "Who is wrong? Who is right?" The monk said nothing. He simply sat in silence. Minutes passed, then hours. The brothers became restless. They kept asking, but he remained silent. Finally, the elder brother broke down and said, "Maybe I was wrong." The younger brother softened too. They embraced each other. The monk smiled. His silence healed what his words never could. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any advice. My friends, love does not always need loud words. Sometimes the most powerful, "I love you," is not spoken. It is shown through silent care, silent patience, silent presence. Sitting next to someone in silence can heal more than hours of talking. Being silent during their anger can save a bond more than any clever reply. Silence is not distance. It is wisdom. It is saying, "I value this relationship more than my ego, more than my argument, more than my need to prove myself right." So, the next time you are about to argue with someone you love, ask yourself, do I want to win the fight, or do I want to win the person? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be together? Because arguments may give you victory for a moment, but silence gives you love for a lifetime. Choose silence. Let it heal. Let it protect. Let it save. Because in the end, words can break hearts, but silence can mend them. My dear friends, have you noticed that the people who are always talking, always interrupting, always eager to show that they know everything, rarely notice what is really happening around them? Their mouth is so busy that their eyes and ears go blind. But the people who stay silent, who observe quietly, who listen with patience, they see more, they hear more, they learn more. And in life, the one who sees more and hears more gets more opportunities. Silence attracts opportunities that noise can never bring. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are in a room full of people. One person is constantly talking, boasting, telling everyone how great they are. Another person is silent, watching, smiling, listening carefully. Who do you think people will approach later with trust? The one who never stopped talking, or the one who gave space, who listened, who made them feel valued? Of course, the silent one. Why? Because silence makes others comfortable. And when people feel comfortable with you, they open doors for you. Doors of trust, doors of friendship, doors of opportunity. I remember once I was at a gathering with many business leaders. One young man kept trying to impress everyone by talking loudly, giving his opinions, showing off his knowledge. Another man, much older, stayed mostly silent. He asked a few thoughtful questions, listened carefully to everyone's answers, and simply smiled. By the end of the evening, almost everyone in the room was surrounding the silent man. People were seeking his guidance, offering him opportunities, wanting to work with him. The young man who talked so much was ignored. Friends, Opportunities do not chase noise, they chase depth. And depth is born in silence. In our careers, silence becomes our biggest strength. The person who listens more learns more. And the one who learns more eventually earns more. Opportunities in business, in work, in life, they come to those who observe carefully. While others are busy speaking, the silent observer is busy noticing small details. They see problems others miss, and in those problems, they find opportunities that others overlook. A talker only repeats what they know. A silent observer discovers what nobody else has seen. Even in relationships, silence brings opportunities to deepen bonds. Imagine you are with a friend who is going through a hard time. If you keep giving advice, talking, interrupting, they may feel more frustrated. But if you stay silent, listen with compassion, just hold space for them, they will feel safe with you. That safety is an opportunity to build a deeper friendship, a stronger trust. Sometimes silence is the very opportunity your relationship needs to grow. Spiritually too, silence attracts divine opportunities. In silence, saints received visions. In silence, inventors discovered ideas. In silence, writers and poets found their inspiration. Why? Because silence opens the door to creativity, to intuition, to inner wisdom. Noise blocks inspiration, but silence invites it. Newton discovered gravity not while talking, but while sitting silently under a tree. Buddha discovered enlightenment not by endless debate, but by sitting silently under the Bodhi tree. Every great opportunity, whether spiritual or material, first arrives in silence. Friends, even in the modern world, employers are looking not just for people who talk, but for people who listen, who understand, who absorb. Opportunities come to those who make others feel heard, not to those who always want to be heard. Your silence becomes your magnet. It pulls people towards you. It makes them curious about you. It makes them trust you. And when people trust you, they offer you opportunities you never even imagined. So the next time you are in a room, remember this: silence does not make you invisible. It makes you irresistible. People may forget the loudest voice in the room, but they will always remember the silent one who listened, who observed, who understood. Because silence attracts opportunities that shouting can never create. Stay silent, stay observant, stay open, and you will see how life itself starts offering you chances, gifts, and doors you never thought would open. My dear friends, silence is not just a tool for better communication, not just a way to save relationships, not just a path to clarity. It is also the doorway to our soul. When you are silent, truly silent, something magical happens. You begin to hear what you could never hear before. The noise of the world fades, and the whispers of the heart, the voice of the soul, the call of the divine begin to surface. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. Fullness of peace, of wisdom, of connection with something far greater than ourselves. Let me ask you, when was the last time you sat quietly, with no phone, no music, no television, no conversation, just you and silence? Many people today are afraid of silence. The moment the room becomes quiet, they rush to fill it with sound, with distraction, with chatter. Why? Because silence feels uncomfortable. It feels like a mirror showing us our true selves. And many of us are not ready to face that. But my friends, silence is not your enemy. It is your greatest friend. It is in silence that you meet yourself, and through yourself you meet God. Look at all the great spiritual traditions. The sages, the saints, the prophets, they all sought silence. Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree in silence for days. Prophet Muhammad meditated in the cave of Hira in silence. Jesus went into the desert for 40 days in silence. In the silence of mountains, rivers, forests, every great soul found their deepest connection with the divine. Why? Because God doesn't shout, the soul doesn't scream, they whisper, and only a silent heart can hear a whisper. Once, a disciple asked his master, "Why can't I hear God's voice?" The master took him to a riverbank at dawn. The world was quiet, no people, no traffic, just the sound of water flowing. He said, "Listen." The disciple closed his eyes and said, "I can hear the water." The master smiled. When the world outside is silent, you hear the water. When the world inside is silent, you hear God. My friends, isn't that beautiful? Silence is the bridge between the human and the divine. Even in prayer, silence has a power words cannot match. Many of us pray by talking, asking, requesting, pleading, and that is fine. But sometimes the greatest prayer is not to ask, but to sit in silence and just listen. To feel God's presence without words. That silence nourishes the soul more than 1,000 speeches. Have you ever sat near the ocean, or in a forest, or under the stars, and felt a sense of deep calm, as if you are part of something infinite? That feeling is silence connecting you spiritually. And let us not forget, the mind itself finds peace only in silence. Noise is the food of ego. Silence is the food of the soul. In noise, we forget who we are. In silence, we remember. That is why meditation, contemplation, reflection, all are rooted in silence. Meditation is not about fighting thoughts. It is about sitting silently, watching, allowing the storm to pass, and slowly sinking into the stillness within. In that stillness, you discover something greater than yourself. In that silence, you realize you were never alone. The divine was always with you. Oh friends, let me share a story. There was a man who once asked a monk, "Where can I find God?" The monk gave him a bowl of water and said, "Stir it." The man stirred, and the water became muddy. The monk asked, "Do you see your reflection?" The man said, "No, it is too cloudy." Then the monk said, "No, leave it still." After a while, the water settled, and the man could see his face clearly. The monk said, "That is how it is with God. In the noisy stirring of your mind, you cannot see Him. But when you are silent, the reflection becomes clear, and in that clarity, you find the divine." So, my friends, if you want to connect spiritually, embrace silence. Not just external silence, but internal silence. Switch off the noise of comparison, the noise of competition, the noise of complaints. Sit with yourself. Listen to your breath. Listen to the beating of your heart. Listen to the stillness within. In that silence, you will find peace. In that silence, you will find wisdom. In that silence, you will find God. My dear friends, let me tell you something from the depths of life's truth. Silence is not just about keeping peace, or saving relationships, or connecting spiritually. Silence is also the very magnet that attracts everything you truly need in life. People often chase after success, after love, after respect, after peace. They run tirelessly, shouting their achievements to the world, trying to prove themselves louder than others. But do you know what happens? The louder you scream for life's blessings, the further they run from you. And the quieter you become, the more they begin to follow you. Think about nature. A flower does not shout to attract the bees. It just stays still, rooted, silent, and the fragrance naturally draws them. The sun does not need to announce every morning, "I am rising now." It simply rises silently, and the entire world notices. Friends, the greatest things in life come to those who don't chase them with noise, but attract them through presence, through calmness, through inner strength. Silence is not empty, it is magnetic. Let me give you an example. Once, a wise king wanted to choose a successor. He called all the young men of the kingdom and gave them a challenge. Each was told to speak about their dreams, their plans, their visions in front of the court. Some spoke loudly, with passion. Some shouted about their courage. Some tried to impress with big words. But one young man remained quiet. The king asked, "Why don't you speak?" The young man bowed and said, "Because words cannot prove my character. My actions in silence will." Years later, that silent man became the most respected leader of the kingdom. Why? Because people trusted his silence more than others' noise. Even in our daily lives, isn't it true? The more someone brags about how much money they have, the less respect they receive. But the silent worker, the one who doesn't show off, automatically commands dignity. The loudest person in the room often seeks attention, but the silent one in the corner, calm and composed, often becomes the most respected. Why? Because silence is a language of power. It tells the world, I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to chase. I am enough. And whatever is mine will come to me. There is a beautiful law of life. What you chase desperately runs away, but what you allow patiently comes closer. Chase love loudly, and people will feel suffocated. Stay silent, be yourself, and love finds you naturally. Shout for respect, and people ignore you. Stay humble and quiet, and respect follows you everywhere. Run after money with greed, and it slips through your fingers. Work silently with dedication, and money flows like water. Friends, silence brings everything, not because silence is passive, but because silence is powerful alignment with life itself. Let me share a small personal story. Once I was upset about something not working out in life. I kept worrying, complaining, speaking to everyone about it, and the more I spoke, the worse it felt. Then one day I just sat in silence. No talking, no complaining, no asking, just silence. And in that silence, I suddenly got a simple idea, clarity, a solution. The problem that seemed so big began to solve itself. That day I realized, when you stop making noise, life begins to whisper solutions. But if you're too loud, you cannot hear them. Friends, imagine silence as fertile soil. You don't shout at the seed every day, grow, grow, grow. No. You plant it, cover it, and leave it silently under the soil. And slowly, silently, it grows into a tree. Life is like that. When you stop screaming for results, when you stop constantly announcing your worth, when you let silence work, everything blossoms at its right time. Success, respect, relationships, happiness, all these are fruits of silent growth. And remember, silence is not laziness. Silence is not inactivity. Silence is an inner posture where you continue to work hard, continue to live sincerely, but without unnecessary noise. You do your part, and then you let silence attract the rest. Just like gravity pulls everything towards the earth, silence pulls blessings towards your life. It brings you opportunities you never expected. It draws people towards you who truly value you. It makes life itself bend in your favor. So my dear friends, if you truly want everything in life, peace, love, success, happiness, don't chase them with noise. Don't beg for them with words. Don't shout for them with insecurity. Instead, stay silent, keep working, keep trusting. Because silence does not mean you will get less. Silence means you will get everything at the right time, in the right way, in the most graceful manner. That is the secret of silence. That is its gift. Why, my dear friends, we began today by reflecting on a simple truth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. Throughout this journey, we have seen how silence can heal relationships, deepen our spirituality, protect our peace, and attract everything we truly seek in life. Remember this: noise may get attention, but silence earns respect. Noise may give you quick results, but silence gives you lasting ones. Noise may win the crowd for a moment, but silence wins hearts forever. In a world where everyone is trying to shout louder than the other, choose to be the calm one, the quiet one, the steady one. Because the world always listens more carefully when the room falls silent. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. The next time you feel the need to fight with words, pause. The next time you think life is not giving you what you deserve, pause. Stay silent, keep doing your work, and trust that silence will speak for you louder than anything else ever can. My friends, may your silence not be empty, but full of depth. May it not be weakness, but your greatest strength. And may your silence become the very magnet that attracts everything beautiful into your life. Stay silent, and you will get everything in life. Thank you.